Hi guys, it's Angela Herenick coming to you today from Brisbane, Australia. Happy Easter. Happy Easter. This weekend is a very holy time for the Christians, and us in the Western world have gone far, far away from our faith traditions, most of us having been born Christian. And it's a time perhaps of us reflecting back on some important spiritual principles that this time is going to conjure up regardless of what our spiritual practices are today. And specifically, I want to talk about forgiveness. This weekend, around Easter, and especially around the equinox, the spring equinox or the fall equinox, depending on which hemisphere you're in, it's very important to come and move inwardly, to ask yourself, where are those places inside of me that are still in resistance, that are still angry, that are still hurt? And where do I move my life forward? And from that place, resurrection will happen. From that place, newness and new birth is going to arise. And before we can move into that new birth and resurrection, there has to be a peace. And that peace is about forgiveness. So there are 5 stages of forgiveness. And the first is that you absolutely must acknowledge and recognize that you've been hurt, whatever the hurt might be. It may be a small little boo-boo. It may be a very, very large one. It may be abuse. It may just be somebody who's wronged you just in a momentary way. But you've been holding a resentment. So the acknowledgement is the first stage. The second stage is actually feeling the feelings that go along with the betrayal, the hurt, the abuse. So you actually have to feel the feelings. It's not an intellectual exercise of, oh yes, I've been hurt. This is actually going into the emotions of perhaps hatred, of perhaps revenge, of sadness, of deep, deep abandonment or rejection. So the second phase is really, really crucial in terms of our healing. It is the actual feeling of the feelings. The third stage after that is coming into the awareness of the perpetrator's point of view. Meaning, where was the person's attitude or disposition at the time that they hurt you or betrayed you or caused you harm? Right? Because as we know, anybody who hurts another has first been hurt. Anybody who has betrayed us has first been betrayed. They can't do something to us without having had it done to them first. So the third phase of forgiveness is about coming to acknowledge the perpetrator's or the offender's point of view. This is just an intellectual place of understanding, of just coming into the rational state of understanding that, maybe that person themselves had been abused and therefore they learned this behavior, right? So they didn't come from a place of absolute intrinsic badness, that they themselves had been hurt. So that's the third phase. The fourth is a little bit more challenging for a lot of people, and that is moving from just the intellectual state of understanding where the perpetrator has come from into the compassion of understanding and the feeling of compassion towards the person that has hurt you. Now, each of these phases of forgiveness, they can be a moment or they can be months or years in between. So from the intellectual phase of comprehension that the perpetrator has been hurt to the place of having compassion around the perpetrator, that can be years. That can be lifetimes, in fact. So I'm not saying it's an easy exercise. It may be a simple stage, but it's not easy. So that fourth phase is about the compassion and more in a felt sense in the body around what the perpetrator, the abuser, the person who's betrayed you or hurt you, what they might have felt and you have compassion for them being another human who's been suffering. And then the fifth phase in the stages of forgiveness, the last phase or stage, is about release. And release meaning letting go of any of the preconceived notions, letting go of the drama around what happened, releasing and letting go of the story of being hurt, the story or the drama of being betrayed.